got it. And then we can start. All right. Let me just now click on. It's just starting the live stream. More people coming in. Yep. More people in the waiting room. Okay. And then we can start. This always happens. Okay. So hello everyone. Yes, and I will explain in a second. Hello everyone. My name is Ines Bulic-Kojokariu. I'm from the European Network on Independent Living Secretariat. And I'm here to welcome you all to our last Freedom Surf event this week. And it's a very exciting one. It's our meeting with our friends from the World Independent Living Network, or with some of them. It's really for ENIL members or anyone else to find out a bit more about the World Independent Living Network, what it is, who is in it, to find out a little bit more about independent living outside of the European context. So just as usual, the housekeeping things. We have Julia here providing captions, closed captions in English that you can follow on your Zoom screen if you click on the CC button. Also, I just pasted into the chat a link to external captions, which you can copy paste into your browser. And you can follow the captions there in English, but also there is a little drop-down menu. If you click on that, you can follow the captions also in Japanese or in Spanish. So for our Japanese friends or anyone preferring Spanish, you can follow the captions there. There is a little delay, so just bear that in mind. So that's captions. So this is a meeting format. So to make it a little bit more interactive, everybody's here together. I would like to ask maybe the participants who are not, the people who are not speaking, to turn your cameras off, but I think they are off already, so no problem. And the speakers, please turn your cameras on so we can see you. I'm here with Nadia Haddad, who is the co-chair of the ENIL board, and she will be moderating the discussion. We also have with us, I'm going to try not to mispronounce anybody's name now. We also have Shafiq Rehman, and Shafiq, you can introduce yourself more, from Pakistan. We have Jessica here, Jiminez, from the United States, from Nickel. We have friends from Japan, so Satoshi Sato, who is the Secretary General of DPI Japan and the board member of the Japanese Independent Living Network. We have Shigeto Itani, who is the president of the CIL Hoshizora, this is my handwriting, and the board member also of the Japanese Independent Living Network. We have also Chano Park from the Seoul CIL in South Korea. And Nadia, who is representing ENIL here as well. I think I've introduced everyone. We will have a discussion. We will have a break in between, 10 minutes in the middle of the meeting, of the webinar. We will play some songs during that time. We will not have captions during that time. And then we will continue. And I suppose before I switch my camera up, just to encourage everyone who's with us today to feel free to either post questions in the chat as we go along, or to keep your questions for later, and then raise your hand and we can bring you in. You can switch your camera off if you like. That's it, I think. So we will start, before we start the discussion, Nadia will explain a little bit about the history of WIN, how it was established, and who's in it, how it works. So Nadia, over to you. I'll be here in the background.
Okay, thank you very much. And welcome to all of you. So in July 2017, Enel received a grant from the Bentley Foundation to join the nickel in Washington. So it was a regroupment, just like the Freedom Drive, but on an American way. So all the responsibles of Centers of Independent Living came together. They had the General Assembly, but the most important of it is that was the World Independent Living Center Network that came together, and that during that assembly. So and there was a big delegation from Japan who was present over there, and they came together and they changed experience of Japan and international cooperation. So we had Satoshi Sato over there, and we had also Soshi Nakanishi, I'm sorry for my pronunciation, was the vice president of the Japanese Independent Living Center, were present, and they came to explain a little bit how they work and how they supported in the third world countries or in other countries the building of a center of independent living. And they came all together to call for solidarity among all the centers of independent living from Japan and US and American leaders to the rest of the world. And that time we had Julia Espinosa, who was present. She was of the Research Center of Independent Living. She was there, the assistant director. We had Marca Bristo, the president and the CEO from Access Living. We had our Japanese friends, and we had also Sherry Burns, executive director of the Silicon Valley Independent Living Center. We had Shafiq was there. We had Wendy from Costa Rica. We had a lot of representatives from different countries who came together to launch the WIN platform, and also to share a little bit experience and to regroup forces to fight against together for the rights of persons with disability around the world. So in that moment, we learned about the experience of the Japanese and also of the States, how they started their independent living movements and how it was in other countries. And the exchange that they had was to encourage each other. And so we thought about establishing a network where we could on frequently basis continue the work and promote independent living, and also try to encourage other people to join the movement. So we launched in that time a kind of working paper by the Global Independent Living Summit Committee during that regroupment. And so the purpose of the formation of WIN was to connect independent living leaders from different countries. It was to share common purpose in creating the society that guaranteed the rights of persons with disabilities and to learn from and to support each other. And also another purpose was to strengthen centers of independent living in each country, to take the lead on empowerment of persons with disability and advancement of policies built on the principles of the CRPD. And the last purpose was also for the global independent living leaders to work together as disabled organization and to tackle on global challenges. And so we built up a kind of board of WIN, and we meet at least 4 times a year, where it's online for the moment, where we are in fact everybody explain a little bit what happened and what they have done with their within their organization and their own region. We try to build up definitions about what we mean by independent living, taking into consideration the cultural variety and trying to overpass barriers. and the limitations that we have. There is a website in building, but there is a Facebook page where a lot of people can put their activities, and we have a lot of centers of independent living worldwide who are there. In the beginning, when we started, we had a representative from every continent. So we had a representative from South Africa also, but sadly enough, the director of that Center of Independent Living passed away. So the contacts with South Africa are for the moment on hold. We are trying to get a little bit more contact with the Africans, but most of them are working more on employment, more on accessibility. They're working on thematics that's where they struggle for daily life. So it's part of independent living, but having centers of independent living in Africa is still something very difficult that maybe we can talk about it later, how we can support each other and support local DPOs to start up again independent living movements. And so without going further, the aim was also that in the future we will organize some trainings. What we have realized last year that we joined forces and we made statements. And this year we participated to the conference of the state parties that is yearly held in New York. And we had a side event together with Emil. We had a side event exactly about the importance of independent living worldwide and how now after this COVID situation, how we could once again go, because we saw that we were going back to the medical approach to independent living and how we could enforce each other to overcome this and go back to the human rights approach and reclaim independent living. And just to show that institutions are not a solution for us, we saw the impact of it. And I think I will leave it there. So we have other board members who are present, and I will encourage you all to go to the Facebook page where we have a lot of information, but you can see also then other centers of independent living and other regions on how they work and what they do. And if there are any questions afterwards, don't hesitate to contact us or to join us, because together we are better. And mostly the secretary is done by our Japanese colleagues.
Thank you, Nadia. I would propose we go to the discussion. We don't have comments in the questions yet in the chat. So the idea now is that we have a couple of questions, and we will go around the table in a way for everyone to have a chance to say something. So yeah, that's it. Nadia, do you want me to ask the questions or do you have them in front of you?
I have them in front of me, but
okay, go ahead then.
Okay,
I'll leave it to you.
So I will start maybe the first round with the first question for each of our representative of the WIN for the moment, and just to highlight a little bit how independent living is understood in your country, and are there big difference between the countries and the region? If you can share this with us, maybe we can start with Shafiq very shortly. The floor is yours, Shafiq.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
You can have your first 3 minutes.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. So my story is a little bit challenging story, but how much time I have? 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes?
Start with 3 minutes.
Okay. So I was selected in Japan for the Destiny Leadership Program in 2001, and I was selected for the training for 10 months in Japan, and I got chance.
Yukiko, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. Go ahead, Shafiq. Sorry.
Yes, and I was in Japan in 2001, for the Industry Leadership Training Program, and I got chance to meet great leaders in Japan who changed their country and they who introduced independent living concept in Japan, like Shoji Nakanishi-san is my loving teacher, my mentor. My first love in independent living movement is Shoji Nakanishi. I learned a lot, and then I met with Mr. Kadota, Shinji Kadota-san, and then Sato-san. They are my teachers, my friends. And in the beginning, it was difficult to imagine that I can work for independent living center or develop independent living center in Pakistan because it was a time 9/11 was happened in United States, and the whole world was against the Muslim countries, and that was some kind of very difficult situation for the country like Pakistan, and nobody was ready to imagine that a country whose image is very much stubborn and they have very close culture and they have some very rigid beliefs and that kind of image we have all over the world, and nobody was ready to trust me to that I can start independent living center in concept could be implemented in Pakistan. But fortunately, I got best my mentor. I especially mentioned Okuhira Masako. She was, I mean, very much good supporter, and I got the support from the independent living centers from Japan. And in the starting, it was difficult for me to explain in Pakistan that the people who need the services, who are paralyzed or who are stuck in their own home, who are prisoner in their own bodies, not because of their identity or their body, because there was no service concept in Pakistan. So in the beginning, nobody was ready to trust or nobody was ready to follow the concept. But then I make a plan. I introduce my friends in different independent living center in Japan. I sent them from Pakistan to Japan, like Human Care Association, Mainstream Association, and different independent living centers, and they got the first-hand information and knowledge from Japan. So it was a game changer. That knowledge created some best human resource in Pakistan. And then we invited our mentors to Pakistan, come to Pakistan. And then I met with Judy Human, and she's a great leader, and she motivated and she trusted and she encouraged us that we can do in Pakistan. And then we realized our culture, our belief, our customs, our resources, our economy, our cultural background, traditions might be possible that they are different. All over the world, we have the different colors, different languages, different histories, but we are facing the same discrimination all over the world. That similar discrimination, the common discrimination, made me realize, oh, ideal concept could work in all part of the world because we are facing the same discrimination. So this is a chance to create the same movement. So that was my understanding. Started from 2002. Oh, it's a long way. Now I lost my hair. Anyway, so in the beginning it was difficult. Still, we are trying our best to enhance the personal assistant services in Pakistan. But right now we have, I mean, more than 56 DPOs, person with disability organizations, who turned into independent living concept. So in Pakistan, what we are doing, we are doing the transformation of DPOs into independent living centers as service provider organizations. And they can create the social businesses. They can create the some financial activities. They can contribute in economy. So, and also we keep our soul as a movement lover. IL movement is our base. I mean, movement is our base, and for survival, we have to do some economical activities as well. So this is a very simple way we are working in Pakistan. I'm sorry, I exceed my time. Thank you. And if you have any question, just let me know.
Okay, thank you very
I'd love
much,
to.
Afi. We'll come back to you afterwards with other questions. Now we'll go to, so it's the same question. Satos, if you can explain a little bit to us, what is the understanding of independent living in your country in Japan, and if you know any difference with other regions. So Satoshi Sato, the floor is yours, please. We don't hear you, Satoshi.
Sorry. Hello everyone. My name is Satoshi from Japan. 私、今ちょっと体悪くて寝ながら参加ですいません。
I'm sorry, I'm laying down. I'm a bit not feeling too well, so I apologize.
日本のアイルのことを少し簡単にお話します。
I would like to talk about IL movement in Japan.
日本は1980年代に、アメリカの IL 運動から学んで、日本で自立生活センターができ始めました。
Japan first learned IL movement from US in the 70s.
80です。
80s.
それで、今は全国で120ぐらいアイルセンターがあります。
Now we have about 120 independent living centers across Japan.
で、日本の特徴は、介助サービスを、公的なサービスとして、作ってもらって、今は住んでる自治体によって支給量は違うんですけれども、24時間の介助サービスが出るっていうところが、とても多く増えてます。
One of the characteristics of Japanese IL movement is we worked on the personal assistance services as a public services provided 24 hours, although it's still depending on a little bit which city you're from, but more and more cities are providing 24 hours services.
なので、日本はかなり重度な筋ジストロフィーとか、そういうかなり重度の人も一人でヘルパーを使って一人暮らしをしてます。
So that allows to people with very severe disabilities such as muscular dystrophy and others, they can have the PA services and live independently in the community.
ただ日本の国の政策としてはまだ施設中心の政策なんで、入居施設にたくさん障害者がいるんで、私たちはそういうところから引っ張り出してきて、自立生活をするように、みんなで支援しています。
However, still Japan as a national plan, they still go towards institution. So our work is to get out people from the institution to move out to the community.
はい。最初はこのぐらいにしときます。終わりです、まさみ。
This is it for now.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will go to Shigeto Itani. If you can explain us a little bit, how does people in Japan, because we hear now about the services and a little bit history in Japan, can you explain a little bit about how does people understand independent living and how do you understand it?
Sorry, 今の通訳できてないよね。 伊谷さんから見てどうIL を理解されてますかっていうことも含めてお話しください。
日本のですか？
はい。
はい。えーっと、はじめまして、伊谷茂人です。
Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Shigeto Itani.
今日は参加できてすごく嬉しいです。
I'm glad that I can participate tonight.
僕が、IL 運動に関わり出したのは、13年前で、自分が、IL センターを立ち上げたところからです。
I got involved in the Independent Living Center about 13 years ago, and I started on Independent Living. I'm running the Independent Living Center right now.
で、今、僕は頸髄損傷っていう障害で、ちょっと見えないですけど、電動車椅子に乗っています。
I have a cervical disabilities, and you can't see me well, but I use the electric wheelchairs.
怪我をして、長く入院して、それからずっと親元にいたので、結構6、7年ぐらい引きこもった生活を送っていました。
When I got injured, I was in the hospital, and after that, about 6 to 7 years, I stayed home. I didn't go out. I didn't get out.
で介助制度が、整ってきて、IL センターとも出会って、そういう自分にも、歴史というか、エンパワーメントされた経験っていうのがあって、外に出たので、本当に IL センターっていうのは、僕が力を取り戻す、とても大切なきっかけを与えてくれたところです。
Since I have known about IL movement, that's when I started to go out and try to do a challenge for new things. So this really the IL movement is to have changed my being at that time to as a current direction.
で、僕は今、ピアカウンセリング、ジルのピアカウンセリング会の委員長をしてるんですけど、ピアカウンセリングを通して、自立していくっていうのが、やっぱり日本の IL センターでとても大切にされていると思います。
Now I work as a chairperson for the peer counseling committee at the Japan Council of Independent Living Centers. And in Japan, I think we really value the process of one's empowerment and learning through peer counseling.
日本の IL センターがいろんなところ、いろんな国で、IL センターの立ち上げとか、伝えていってるんですけど、その中でピアカウンセリングを伝えるっていうのもとても大切な役割だと思っています。
Some centers have already assisting other countries to teach about IL and disseminate IL concept. But within our work, it's an important part is to also talk about the peer counseling.
ウィーンの存在もそうなんですけど、この IL センターっていうのが世界中にあることで、僕自身もそうですし、世界中がこうやってつながれる、とても大切な場だと思っています。
of course, the when and all these centers coming together, like today, because we do, all of us have a common, in common is to have running the independent living centers and the independent living movement. So this is the place that we can bring all of the activists from all over the world.
とりあえずこれぐらいにしておきます。
はい、this is
ありがとうございました。
it for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Shigeto, for sharing with us how you get involved in the movement. I will go now to South Korea, and I give the floor to Shannon Park. If you can explain a little bit, really the understanding of independent living, if it and how you promote it within your society. Thank you. You can unmute yourself and channel, and you can put your camera on. Yes, thank you. We see you now, and we hear you now.
Sorry, I am not English very well. I'm not ready yet, not yet. Next time, I'm sorry.
Is there somebody who can translate for you?
Sorry, I cannot ready transpiration.
Okay, but no harm.
Yeah.
You can send your contribution on written later on, and we can share it with the participants if you don't mind. So you can tell us about how the movement in South Africa and South Korea works, and which definition you use, the barriers you have, and how we can work together. Is that okay for you? Thank you, Shano. So
Okay.
Thanks. So we'll go right away to our next speaker, who's Jessica Jiminez from the States. Jessica, the floor is yours. If you can explain a little bit about what is independent living and how you consider it within your organization and also within within the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's talking about the history. Oh no. So the independent living movement, I know other countries were probably doing it before, but in certain written history in the United States, we had begun doing it in the late 60s, early 70s by a guy named Ed Roberts. That's how in our history book, it's the independent living movement, how independent living centers started. And he started by just fighting for his rights at a college, just to get things fast forward. In the early 80s, him and a famous activist that many of us on this panel know, Judy Heumann, got together and put an organization called the World Institute on Disability, just to work together to provide more services, or to spread the word of independent living across the world. And that was just kind of the needle, or like the seed that was planted of what independent living is across the world. And so that's just a little history on the United States and global history of independent living. I didn't want to get too much into it since the United States has been doing independent living for such a long time. And our country is very, very wide, very different. We have 3 different regions, I would say: the East Coast, the Midwest, and the West Coast, in which I am in right now. So the National Council on Independent Living, also known as NICL, we define independent living as the idea that people with disabilities are best experts on their own needs and have valuable perspectives to contribute, equal opportunity to decide how to live, work, and take part in their community in certain services, access. So basically, our perspective on independent living across the country and what we try to promote across the world is that you can do things on your own. We need to find access in a certain way. If there aren't services that can be provided to you in your community, we need to fight for those rights. And so, like I mentioned, the United States is different in every region. Like I'm in California, we are very largely populated. Our services are different in the Midwest that is not as populated. So transportation is a little bit better in California than it is in the Midwest. And I know only because the amount of people that are in there. Sometimes it depends on the amount of people that are in each state or in each region. It depends on, like, we just need to make sure that there's a certain amount of people that are able to speak up for their voices, or that have the voices to speak up. So Nickel has certain conferences or independent living centers that we just educate people within the community. And one of the issues that many of us have is providing the resources and letting people know about the resources, because there are not many centers within certain communities or certain parts of our country. They lack the access. So I would say that is just a little thing about just the differences within the United States. From other countries, we have been doing independent living for a long time, but from what I've noticed, other countries probably have better access or better just a lot of other things that are better than ours. I know for those that are blind in certain parts of the world, I believe people have told me, like in Japan, they have a spot for canes just so that they know not to fall over the railroads and or the train tracks, or on a street sign they have a sound that people can hear. That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. But I know that every country is different in accessibility, and people may think, oh, the United States is great. We are not. We have our flaws, and that's something that I want to point out. And yeah, that's probably just one thing I wanted. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jessica. I stay with you because you say that the services are different from one region to another. But my question then is to you: is the understanding of different of the independent living, does the interpretation is different from one region to another, or no? You still have that common understanding in the States?
So we do. That's our goal for each region. For the National Council on Independent Living, that's our definition. Each center has their own definition, and each state as well, because it's like we can't tell them this is what independent living is. When, like I said, I live in California. I have more privileges than those people in Arkansas, and although we try to let them know that independent living is, you need to fight for your rights, for deinstitutionalization, assistive technology. I'm trying to think of all the other ones. I don't have, just everything that's within the IL. Many of the times centers don't have the money for it, and they have to either have it go to outside grants or go to other organizations, refer people to other organizations. And I mean, that, we always have the same goal, the core services. many of the times some organizations don't follow those core services only because of the lack of funding or just who's in charge within that little structure. It's like, I can't say, oh yeah, they're doing it when they may not be doing it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. But at least, can you then tell us if you have some common barriers to independent living? That was
Yeah,
something you face in common.
yeah, some common barriers. I mean, for me, for me, it's transportation. I don't drive. And in Northern California and Southern California, barrier is the transportation, having it to be accessible, and then having it to be, there's different ways of accessibility, that there's space, wheelchair accessibility, that there's, well, that's probably the main one, but also timing. Timing is a big accessibility, trying to get to work on time. That's part of independent living. People just assume Southern California is known for driving, and so people are always constantly getting things done by driving. I'm always told, get your license already. And I am procrastinating because the cost of gas is really high up. And that's part of the cost of living, part of independent living. Many people with disabilities can drive. They can, but it's being affordable to live in California, being able to live in certain states. That's a barrier, just transportation, housing, employment. Those are many things that we suffer as people with disabilities. I moved from Northern California to Southern California, and I moved back home with my mom. And there's like 10 of us here. So, and that's a struggle, having to live with multiple people, including your disability. Mine is a neurological disability and developmental. So sometimes that can be very stressful. And so, and mine, I look very able-bodied. So if I wasn't, and it's not accessible, I have very friends that need accessibility, so I don't get to see them because my house is not accessible. So that is, and I live in a rural area. So if you live in a rural area, there's no, the wheelchair accessibility is very limited, being able to have transportation, a lot of things. That's one thing, and I'm in California, very liberal part of the United States that people love so much. As you can see, though, that's a barrier that I suffer as a woman, that looks able-bodied. You can just imagine those that have a physical disability that are more disabled than I am. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing this with us. I think that a lot of other people have those common barriers, but I see, I'm watching the time. It's 3:45 in Brussels time. And for Julia, who's doing the captioning, she needs the 10-minute break. So if you don't mind, we will now have a 10 minutes break, and then we come back with with the discussion. But please, in the meantime, if you have any question or anything else, write it in the chat, or if it's difficult for you to write it down, raise your hand up so somebody can give you the floor, and then you can ask the question. But we will continue in 10 minutes sharp. See you in 10 minutes then. Bye. There will be some music that will be played in the
officer, if you're really bored and you're looking out for crimes, we've got a list of villains abusing our rights all the time. But somehow this doesn't bother you like a slot on their land. So you come harassing us while our people feel their hand. Can't believe they think we're doing wrong. The riot coppers with their cutters break the cuffs and move us on. You know I don't believe they think we're doing wrong. What we're doing is nothing compared to what's getting done. They tell us they'll use reasonable force. So will we, peacefully. And then the copper asks me, do you understand, miss? And I said, no, I never will. No, I never will. Because I don't believe you think we're doing wrong. That's the third time you removed us and not arrested anyone. You know I don't believe you think we're doing wrong. What we're doing is nothing compared to what's getting done. What we're doing is nothing compared to what's being done. What we're doing is nothing compared to what's getting done.
मैं मसरूफ हूँ मीटिंग में।
Long live our movement while we must fight. Long may we resist what is wrong for what's right, till all our descendants can live in the light, not locked behind doors, out of range, out of sight. No, the cause of oppression's not inside me or you, our bodies or minds or our senses, it's not true. Let's fight for change till the world is for you, for me and for all who come after us too. All now, pull together, find those who are missing, so that we may grow. Even now, it's just the beginning. We've come so far, but there's further to go. Our shared experiences generate change. Leave nothing undone. Fight in all of our ways. Leave no one behind. Use well all of our days till we pass over and go to our graves. Times once again are becoming so tough. These social distances feel pretty rough. Carnage our people face is more than enough. But we'll rise again soon for justice with love. far, but there's further to go. Remember activists born before us, the powerful traditions entrusted to us tell radical stories so no knowledge is lost. Our emancipation is waiting for us. All now, pull together, find those who are missing so that we may grow. Even now, it's just the beginning. We've come so far, but there's further to go. All now, pull together, find those who are missing so that we may grow. Even now, it's just the beginning. We've come so far, but there's further to go. We've come so far, but there's further to go.
I don't know if the majority of you is already back.
Maybe just to say, Nadia, to everyone, so this was Dennis Queen, an activist, singer, songwriter from the UK, and they have recorded 6 songs for the Freedom Surf. So we've been playing them all these 3 days, and you can find them on Enil's YouTube channel. We will post the lyrics in the comments for each song. The lyrics are very, very good. So I encourage you to check out the other songs as well, and hope you liked the music. Over to you, Nadia.
Okay, thank you very much, Ines, for sharing this good information with us. So if everybody's back, then we continue. Maybe I will resume the questions so that everybody of you can have one opportunity to answer them, and then we open the floor for questions to make it a little bit more interactive for the rest of the time. So Jessica already shared with us the main barriers they have in the States. So I'll ask you, each of you, to give also at least 3 main barriers, to see also how your Center of Independent Living in your country is working on it and how active it is, and know how the funding is done, because it's also something interesting to exchange, if you are funded by governments, or if it's donation, or if it's through services that you provide. And then, and after that, we'll open the floor to the others. So I don't know, Shafiq, can you maybe start again, sharing with us your obstacles and how your center is working?
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Shafiq. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Actually,
working for, it's a bit difficult for to explain. Uh, we have some subsidies from the government for the personal assistant service, but in Pakistan, we have very close family system, very strong family system, and it's very difficult to interfere in a family where a person with severe disability is living. Uh, for example, if a person who has paralysis and he's living in a huge family system, like 10 or 20 people living together in the same home, so it's difficult to send a person for as a personal assistant to him, actually, to her or him. But we change a little bit. We try to do some experiment, and they are working, but it's not a final solution. The final solution, which I observed in Japan, that is the independent home, living with the services as a personal living. For example, having own residence. It's difficult to get in the family system with the services. So this is the biggest challenge. But what we are doing, we are trying to involve the family members of a person with disability and trying to train them as a personal assistant. And also we are encouraging them to attend your brother or sister and also attend another neighbor or a person who has the same lifestyle, uh, and get some kind of salary or income. So it is working, but it's very difficult to ensure the revenue. And then we did another experiment, which is successful, very successful. We started develop technologies in Pakistan, like wheelchairs, like electric wheelchairs. And in the first phase, we collected the used wheelchair from Japan, and our friends from Japan, they shared their used electric wheelchairs to the Pakistani person with disability. And that wheelchair became the public to public relation. For example, if a person who has a cerebral palsy and he is separating his wheelchair from the chin, we found the same disability person who is going to operate with the chin joystick using the chin. So they became, they became some kind of friends. The same thing they are using. I mean, a device used by a Japanese friend, and that the same device with the same lifestyle used by a Pakistani friend. So that kind of exchange is going on. And also we started making wheelchairs in Pakistan 5 years before. This is one of our project in Independent Living Center. We are making wheelchairs and providing them to the government and the INGOs who wanted to donate the wheelchairs. So we established the concept of customized wheelchair in Pakistan. Before there was no, everyone was using the hospitalized wheelchairs in Pakistan. But then we developed the technology. One of our project, we developed the technology, and there we are, generating some revenue. And also we are doing the access audit to the public building and the private companies. They are hiring us as a access auditor. Recently, we did the access audit to the 33 basic health units, small hospitals in community. 33 hospitals we did the excess audit and get some revenue. So also we are, doing some kind of social media activities and for the advocacy. Due to the COVID, we started using the social media as a connection. In Pakistan, more than half population is using the cell phone and internet they are using. So it's we are 200 million population, more than 220 million we have population. So it's a world number 6 populated country. So it's a big human resource we have, and the youth is young people is a asset of our country, and we are trying to involve the young people as a activist, and they are doing their part-time activities as a personal assistant. And also Pakistan, we 10 years back, Pakistan government, we with the government of Pakistan, we made a rule of in education. Nobody can get their degree before to complete the 15 days social activities in any NGO. So there are thousands of young people who need to complete their 15 days social services. So we are getting the huge number of the free of cost young internees or trainee attendant as we are trying to understand them the concept of attendant service. So till now, every year more than 1,200 young people in my organizations are doing the internship, and we are using their time, not them but their time, for the personal assistant service. They are going to the home of person with disabilities and providing the attendant service. So that is the main. So in that way, we don't have to pay the their money for work, because it's their duty to work for 15 days. Otherwise, they cannot get the degree of their educational degree. So that is one method we are using, and uh, I mean, we have some small studio. We are making some kind of videos and selling them, and we making some documentaries, some songs, and that kind of artwork also going on in my centers. But different region has, as Jessica, she explained the different uh, methods of living in United States, because all people have the different kind of resources, but our ways could be different, but our destination is the same. We want to live in with the pride of our own. I mean, we want to celebrate our life. So for the celebration, we need resources, the practical services. Uh, the final goal is to use the tax money for our services. Till that, we have to use the community resources for our survival. So Pakistan is in that phase, in that position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shafiq. While I have you, so just two small questions. What about people with intellectual disabilities or social psychological disabilities? Do you also support them in living independently? And if I get it right, it's only through services of PAs in their houses. There are no direct payments, or there is no other legal framework to have assistance by themselves.
Actually, in Pakistan, government of Pakistan is paying uh, the insurance like a very small money, but we have system. They are paying a small amount, like 1,500 rupees per month to every person with disability, and also person with disabilities has the health insurance all over the Pakistan. So all country people who have disability card, they can get the free of cost medical insurance, like 750,000 rupees per year. And for example, I'm rich user. I have that card. Not only me, but my family, my mother, my brother, my real blood relations. They all people can get the benefit from my insurance card. So in that, this is the one of the best, I think, practice in Pakistan. In the beginning, not much. Fully we are not fully relying on it. It's a development process. But in that project of Pakistani government, now the most neglected part of family became the a benefit for the whole family as a medical insurance. For intellectual disabled person with disability, they also have the same card for medical insurance. And for their like dyslexia or some kind of lifestyle with intellectual disability people, in Pakistani culture or system, family is responsible for them. And in Pakistan, 98% people are Muslim, and in their religious belief in Pakistani system, that intellectual disability people are very close to God. So family members must care them very much. But it doesn't mean to praise them or it doesn't mean to ignore them, but feel equal as well. But in the basic concept, the basic belief. But culture has many colors. In some areas of Pakistan, intellectually disabled persons got harassment. They used by some people as a beggars. They used by some people as a showpiece to get the charity for their institutions. So many. As I mentioned, it's a huge population. A lot of colors we have, but in system we have insurance, health insurance, and small amount of living allowance by the government of Pakistan.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. I go now back to our friends of Japan. Satoshi, can you show us a little bit? Can you explain a way about the services that Japanese independent living centers are providing? But what are the biggest struggles and how are you financed?
まさみ、もう一回質問を言ってもらえますか。あ、OK、わかった。あ、はい。まず、日本の課題はですね、一つ言いますね。一つ、政府がまず地域移行を積極的に進める政策をやってないっていうのが、まあ、一つ大きな課題です。
First, the biggest problem is the government is not very active toward deinstitutionalization or transition to the community.
IL センターはだいぶできてきて、で、いるんですけれども、国が積極的にそういう政策をしないんで、まあ、入居施設にいる障害者はまだたくさんいます。
Although we have increased number of independent living centers, but the national policies is not yet quite has a direction to the community. So we still have many people being directed to institutions.
施設を運営している側の人たちの方が政治的な力がありますので、なかなか地域移行っていうのがまだ進んでないです。
And still, some of the major institutions have a very influential political power. So it's been a struggle for a long time for us.
で、IL センターの収入源っていうのは、これは15年ぐらい前にできたんですけれども、介助を派遣したら、それが公的な制度として、できましたので、介助派遣する IL センターは、派遣した時間数に応じて収入を得ることができます。これが大きな収入です。
And about the funding, we have the public services as a PA services as a public services funded by the government. So depending on how many hours you dispatch the PAs, you get money from the government. So that's how independent living centers manage the income.
多分、日本の IL センターの収入は、90% ぐらいは全部これです。
So I would say 90% of incomes of IL centers are from the services.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe now I'll ask Guido if you can explain a little bit as user. Is that budget that you receive enough to live independently and be included in the community? And for what can you use it, for example? Masami, can you translate for him, please?
Sorry, excuse me. To whom are you asking?
Shigeto?
Ah. はい。トミーさんいける？
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you as a user or personal assistant, is your budget enough? Can you have the support that you need to live independently and be included in the community? And can you use it for other areas, or is it only to have personal assistance?
Ah, そうですね。今は、やっぱり昔よりも今の方が、介助時間っていうのは伸びてきていて、それはより身体的に重度な人に多く時間を出るようになっているので、全部の県、日本では全部の県で24時間の保障っていうのが実現しています。
Yes, we have more time for the personal attendant services than the excuse me. Now we can get now more time for personal assistant services, and we can disseminate the we can dispatch the personal assistant to the more severe disabilities, and we can cover the all parts of Japan. They can use the personal assistant services in all over the Japan.
で、日本の、
ごめんなさい。
え、会場
以外にも何か使えるサービスがありますか？
ああ。それ車椅子とか、ベッドとかってこと？福祉サービスってこと？
その地域生活のために必要なサービスとして、いわゆる介助派遣以外に何かサービスを使えていますか？
はいはいはい。そうですね。まあ、車椅子の、まあ、補助であるとか、あと家で生活、まあ、自宅で生活する上での、まあ、移動リフトとか、まあ、ベッドですね。あとお風呂の中で使うリフトとか、シャワーチェアとか、まあ、地域で生活する日常福祉用具っていうんですか。そういうものは、全額ではないですけど、補助が出るようになっています。
And the other services from the PA services, we have the economical support to get to wheelchairs and to get some kind of lift or the hoist to use in the house. And we can use the hoist in the bathroom, and so we can get some support to get daily living support from the government.
まあ、地域によって、少し違いがあって、私が住むところとかは、パソコンとか、あとパソコンの周辺機器ですね。障害者が使えるような機械にも、そういう補助が出たりします。
And but we have there is a difference between the area. For example, my area, we can get support to equip the PC devices and to support some PC, to get some PC devices we can get.
まあ、コロナでリモートも増えているので、もっとそういう制度が使える、まあ、市町村というか地域が増えていくのを望んでます。
So we are under the Corona COVID situation, so we hope to get more support from government to equip the PC devices and to access the online.
Okay. Thank you.
チャノが、さっき話せてなくて、日本語の通訳があれば話せるんじゃないかと思うんですけど、聞いてもらえませんか？
So I think that Chano-san from South Korea, he could not to talk in this meeting, so we could support to translate from Japanese to English. So can you talk in this meeting, Chano-san?
The mic is off.
チャノ、
チャノパーク、
私、日本語で喋ってもいいですか？
いい
Can
で
I
す
speak
よ。
English? いいですよ。Yes.
韓国は2000年ぐらいの障害者運動がもう一度強くなって、最初は88年ぐらいから始まったんですけど、中等障害者の当事者中心で、障害者運動が2000年ぐらいに強くして、この時一緒に自立生活センターも設立しました。
in South not South Africa, in South Korea, we started the disability movement since 1988, and the person with severe disabilities is centered in the movement, and then on the 2000, we get more power to the IL movement, and we have established the Center for Independent Living.
それで、この時、パクリ CIL や日本のヒューマンケアとかメインストリームとかをすごい見学して、参考しました。それで2007年、会場制度も設立しました。
And then on 2000, we visited to the Center for Independent Living in Japan, for example, Human Care Association and Mainstream Association, and we studied a lot and learned a lot from the movement. And back to Japan, back to our country to start PS services in 2007.
それで今、全国に CIL が250カ所くらいにいます。それ日本より、2倍ぐらいなので、人口は日本の2分の1なのに、センターは多いんですね。
And now we have around 250 centers in South Korea. It 2 times in Japan, but we have half population in Japan.
いろいろ理由があるけど、韓国の障害者の運動が一緒に広げて、もうそれぞれセンターを作りたいの理由があるけど、なんとかいいことか悪いことかはあるけど、今センターの数は多いです。
The reason we have so many reasons why we have so many Center for Independent Living in South Korea, but persons with disabilities in our country wanted to have more Center for Independent Living. So now we have 250 centers.
今、韓国では障害者の基本法律と、差別禁止法、障害者の差別禁止法はあるけど、社会的な差別禁止の法律と、いろいろな新しい法律を作るの中で、多中施設法律を作るの運動もめっちゃ強いにやっています。
Now we have the basic law for persons with disabilities and anti-discrimination law against persons with disabilities. So then we are focused to create the law about deinstitutionalization.
それで、今いいチャンスのは、文在寅大統領が選挙の時約束した障害者の基本法律は、障害者の権利補助法律はもうできる可能性が高いです。それで、多中施設の法律はちょっと難しいかもしれないけど、厚生労働省が障害者の多中施設の5年プランを作って、今、施設のいる人が3万人くらいなので、3万人の5分の1ぐらいは、5年後、10年後に、自立させますって、宣言しました。
We are in the great opportunity to build person with human rights law for persons with disabilities. So because that protection law, because our Prime Minister promised to create the law, and the healthcare ministry plans, creates a plan to 5 years plan for the health. So health and digitalization. So now we have the 30,000 people in the institution. So we are focused to try to get to them to go out to the community.
Okay, thank you very
Uh,
much. Maybe I will propose you to send us all those documents, you know, the draft of that law about deinstitutionalization. That can be very interesting, and you will share it with the people, because I'm sorry to say I'm looking at the time, and just to give an opportunity to the floor to say something very short. And I have Shafiq. You have 1 minute,
さん、時
Shafiq.
間がなくて申し訳ないんですけれども、今話してくださったその脱施設の流れについてはすごく興味がありますので、その文章でですね、ご用意。
So,
Go ahead, Shafiq.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chanu-san. I love you, Chanu-san, my brother. Actually, I want to share a very, very, very important thing. Why the country like Pakistan, Nepal, Cambodia, with Thailand and Malaysia and many Pacific countries, how we started independent living centers in the beginning. One resource was knowledge from Japan, trainings, education, interaction with the leaders. But another aspect is very, very important. That was the financial support. The people who are getting the attendance surveys in Japan, the revenue generated by IELTS centers, as Sato-san mentioned, that they share their income with the independent living centers in our countries. So that is the surviving, I mean, the starting, the seeding the concept with some kind of watering, but the end motive is to be independent by local resources as well. And also the Japan government has a policy like a JICA. JICA promoted independent living centers and independent living programs in different countries. That was a turning point and a big investment by the Japanese people and the Japanese government, especially Masami Morigami. She supported many projects for IEL in different countries. So this is very important. Contribution of a nation to develop many IEL centers in different nations.
Thank you very much, Shafiq, for sharing this with us. So funding is essential. So we should encourage them to stimulate it more. So I will open the floor if somebody have an urgent question or something very concrete, because this was supposed to be more interactive. So we didn't hear yet. There are some questions in the chat box, and it was about, does it mean now that there is no institutions in your country, for example, Shafiq, because you are more community-based, more raised up in families?
Yeah, actually, in 2002, when I came back to Pakistan after getting the idea of IEL centers, I used to work in the capital of Pakistan, Islamabad, and I have some good relation with the policymakers because of the support of Judy Human and the support of Hokuhira Masako and the Japanese embassy. And that time we stopped government to make institutions. You will surprise that in Pakistan there is not a single institution for person with disability, and this is our we stop that misuse of money for the making the human cages, the making the isolation centers. Why not invest money to start from zero to independent living center? Why not invest, because Pakistan was developing that time. In the process of development, we stopped investing government to the institutions or infrastructure for the exclusion.
Yeah.
So that is the one kind of reason
Okay.
why we don't have the institutions.
Okay.
Thank
But
you.
now it's only even inside families and inside our own apartments or houses, we still can be institutionalized due of lack of services, but that's not a battle. Is there any other person within the participants who have a question or want to share something with us? Because we have a few minutes and then we need to wrap up, sadly enough.
This is Jessica. So yeah, you had me bombarded with questions and I didn't get to answer all of mine. So yeah, transportation isn't just one of the major barriers that we get to go through, or that we go through in a country as a whole. As Shahid mentioned that institutionalization is one, and Nadia, as you mentioned, that it's not just like ending it, having the buildings in general. And in the United States, that's a problem that we do have. You've probably read articles once COVID started, and that's within every country, that people with disabilities were just ignored and put into nursing homes, and institutionalized because their lives didn't matter. That's one thing that we are working on as well. And it's actually one of our major priorities, because it's where's the money going for funding, and we really want to make sure that everybody is getting treated equally. And also housing is another thing. Like I mentioned about accessibility, transportation is one, but housing is key. It is something that should be accessible to everybody. We have a large population of homelessness, and fair housing is not really fair. Many people think it is, but like I mentioned, it's expensive to live in certain places. Even the cheapest places are expensive. And so yeah, I think that is probably all I wanted to mention. Where we get our funding, we have a specific organization called the ACL, and the Administration for Community Living. It's under a law, the Rehabilitation Act, and also WIOA. I don't want to get it mixed up on how that is, because if I get it wrong, I don't want you to write it down as a homework assignment or anything. But we get funded, state and local centers get funded through that organization, and it tells organizations what to do, if they can go lobby for bills, and that's something that we are not allowed to do. We have to just go educate elected officials and tell them, this is what is happening if this bill gets passed, or this is how it affects people with disabilities. So that's basically how we get our funding, through this organization, or this organization. It's a government funded organization, and we also do apply for other grants that allow our organizations, our state and local organizations, to do the best that they can within their centers. And like I mentioned, every center is different because it's different parts of the country, different regions. So yeah. Sorry for talking too fast. I know we are limited on time. So
Okay, but thank you anyway for sharing this with us, and it's inspiring to diversify the incomes. Okay, we are nearby at the end, so I will, we didn't even reach the moment where we could say how we can join forces and what role Europe can play, or what role WIN can play to enforce the Independent Living Center. But I think that's a good reason to hold the next webinar or kind of meeting with all of us, and to go more in details and having more time to speak how that we can have a common, let's say, a common campaign for independent living, and that we can adapt it to our regions to have a little bit more impact. So thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to all the participants. I will hand over to Ines. Also, thank you very much for Julia, who did the captioning, the whole freedom surf. I hope that she didn't have too much bags and water, because there were long days and we didn't respect all the time the timings. So in case nobody has something very urgent to say, it would be nice to put in the chat box your country so that you can see how many people have from different countries. That would be really nice if it was not already in the registration. And let's commit ourselves to follow this up. Ines, I hand over to you to close as Executive Director our last kind of webinar meeting from this week.
Thank you, Nadia. Well, you've said it all. You've thanked everyone, so I can only thank you for moderating as well. And maybe just one thing to say is we were supposed to have another Freedom Surf event on access to housing, which Jessica was mentioning. But we've decided to postpone it for November because one of the speakers canceled, so we decided better to wait. But just for everyone to know that we are planning to still have that webinar on access to housing in November, and we will announce it soon. And well, just to thank everyone again. It's great we've had people, we are seeing where people are coming from. Thank you everyone for joining. And yes, have a good, I don't know what times of the days you are in your countries, but have a good rest of the day or good night. And well, as Nadia said, we hope to see you all again soon. And thank you to Masami for translating as well. And Tommy. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.